All right, welcome to A Playbook to be Proud of, making the case for LGBTQ plus user account design. My name is Beatrice Fadrigon, and I will go over this presentation for y'all today. I just wanted to take some time to highlight my co-authors, Princess Gordon, Jane Lupica, and Dr. Ames. Me, Princess, and Jane were all master students at UC Berkeley under the guidance of Dr. Ames, and this was our capstone project. And we've since graduated since last year, but we wanted to make sure that this work kind of made it and were highlighted in the academic HCI space. So a bit of an introduction about this project is that we're taking a look at user accounts and user accounts sign up flows and the way that folks typically have to sign up for a digital product before they can actually use it. And we know that folks are asked to present themselves via personal data on user accounts all the time. Data such as name, gender, address, like personal data such as that. And we also know that product managers within the tech industry hold the power to make that realistic change. They are the ones in charge of what that sign up flow looks like, what data they collect, etc. But when it comes to change, companies are increasingly pressured by younger audiences, such as Gen Z, to perform more inclusively and make those changes to their digital products. But the motivation for this project was mainly through my own lived experiences as a queer person trying to navigate my gender identity throughout graduate school. I was trying to sign up for the intramural leagues, and it was really the first time signing up for the intramural league website that I allowed myself to select a non-heteronormative option, which was non-binary. And kind of stepping my self-identity into that because that's how I felt. And then when I continued throughout the sign-up flow, it made me select between a man's league and a women's league. And I know sports has its own set of rules when it comes to gender, but I was confused because I was playing in a co-ed league. Me and my cohort, my graduate cohort, who were all playing soccer together, had already kind of decided that we were going to play co-ed. So I was confused why I had to self-select into man or women's league. And I thought, do other queer people feel this way? Let me kind of see what's going on here. But what we did find is that other people do feel this way. Other queer people do feel this way. So we know that excluding LGBTQ plus users leads to harm. And Cassandra Chalk describes in her Design Justice book, Design Justice asks whether affordances of a designed object or system disproportionately reduces opportunities for already oppressed groups of people while enhancing the life opportunities of dominant groups independently of whether or not designers intended this income. So maybe intramural designers did not intend for me to feel that way, but it happened regardless. And then we also know that poor design leads to harms, where authors point out that we are especially concerned about the ways in which real name single user policies limit the ways in which participants can identify themselves, because those policies seem to impose publicly sanitized heteronormative performances. But when we take a look at current frameworks for LGBTQ plus inclusive user account design, authors Hansen and Kataspiel write that for large sample HCI surveys, we recommend an optional checkbox format with the following 5 options: woman, man, non-binary, prefer to disclose or prefer not to disclose, and prefer to self-describe. But when we take a look at these design frameworks in practice, in industry and federal spaces, this kind of framework of inclusiveness, autonomy, precision, and privacy, and parsimony was published by the academic sciences of the United States federal government. Which leads us to our research question of how might we ensure that product managers and designers are able to easily educate themselves and advocate with up-to-date information on inclusive design focused on LGBTQ plus communities, because we find that there's all these resources, all these findings, but how do we actually get that into the hands of product managers and designers? To do this, we focused on design inquiry rooted in community. So we tried to use a cycle of research, design, feedback, and iterations kind of to make it the most robust resource that we can make for product managers and designers who were our main audiences. And with this, we wanted to connect communities to power, kind of organize a collective queer voice and directed to the power of directed to empower industry product teams to make realistic change. But in order to make realistic change, we need to provide a practical resource that was accurate to PM experiences, queer user experiences, etc. So we wanted to make sure that we were accurately organizing, representing these voices into a practical, usable tool. And we did this through 4 main ways: user surveys, PM user interviews, account analysis, and design iteration. So what are some things that stick out to users? How do PMs think about their workflows? How do users think about current UAs or user accounts? What UA industries currently look like? And after designing this guide, again, is it accurate and usable? So for the preliminary survey, we presented this Facebook user account sign-up flow to users. And we asked them to imagine you are creating a profile that you want to be representative of your sexual and gender identity and encounter the sign-up form. And we asked them the following questions. So from 1 to 5, how strongly do you agree with the following statements? How would feel included about using a user account on this platform? And that was just to kind of gauge what their personal feelings were. I think my LGBTQ plus peers would feel included creating a user account on this platform, and that's to see, do they think their community agrees? And I would prefer this account sign up ask for more versus ask for less. When it comes to user interviews, we did a semi-structured user interview style and asked about the following 2 themes. First, inclusivity and pain points. So how does your definition of inclusivity apply to your favorite app? And then we asked them to share a memorable experience that they have in signing up for a user account on a digital platform. And then after those interview questions were done, we led them through a card sorting activity for testing previously tested methods, such as the 2-question method. And then for PM interviews, it was the same kind of ordeal, where first we asked about their work background, such as how do you handle changes? Is there pushback? What is the hierarchy of decision making? And inclusion, how do you define inclusion, and how do you think your users define it? And then we take them through a cognitive walkthrough of the sign-up flow and kind of let them explore the page and ask questions such as, what would you change, if anything, on this user account sign-up? And then we did a user account analysis just to get a relative sense of what else was going on in the PM sphere, what might users experience on different types of applications and their user account signups. So we looked at 45 different applications that spanned healthcare, social media, entertainment, and then professional, scientific, and technical services. And I have a few listed here. And then finally, when we wanted to take a look at design iterations, we did surveys and interviews to follow up with a few users and PMs to ask, is this information accurately representing your experiences? And a survey to PMs, is it intuitive to use and practical for you and your team? And what we found generally was that queer users' experience on commonly used platforms that they felt less included, wanted more representative questions, and believe that their community would agree with the outcome. But when it came to product teams thinking about inclusion on Facebook, for example, if PMs are aware of SOGI, which stands for sexual orientation, gender identity data issues, most are lost on actually what to do. So then that work falls on the most marginalized folks already at work. They would mention talking to their ERGs or peers who hold these lived experiences and would try to think about this through them. And one of the findings, again, in our preliminary survey, we get respondents from 81 queer users, 63 non-queer users, for a total of 144. And another question that we asked was, how comfortable they were in sharing these data points up top, such as legal name, preferred name, gender, sex, pronouns, sexuality, and photo, with the following types of apps: dating, social media, telehealth, etc. And what we find is that sexuality and photo are the least commonly wanted to be shared data points, with the following types of apps: so game or puzzle, hotel or vacation rental, and finance. And what we find in user interviews is that users kind of go through feelings and themes of hesitancy, resistance, and compliance. Here I have a flowchart from our paper where when digital products engage in that kind of already present inclusionary design, users generally feel hesitant, and they respond in two ways. They either comply, or they resist, or they just exit out of the form. So resistance leads to incorrect data on users, and compliance really leads to a subpar user experiences. But if you take a look at that green box, inclusive design, that's kind of where our playbook comes into play. And that leads to more micro-affirming experiences rather than micro-aggressive. And findings for these user interviews, here's some examples of: it doesn't make sense why they would want to know what my gender or pronouns are. That's for hesitance. It's not like I have to give them 100% of my information. That's resistance. And then compliance is: I'm used to choosing all these markers about yourself, and I'm desensitized to it. And when it comes to PM interviews, we find that they value Facebook as an industry leader and seek to follow their steps. So they find that these large tech industries as their leaders and follow their steps on what to do. But without a collective industry guidance standard, PMs had no guidance. So they try to work collaboratively with other PMs and their teams to, create the best user experience. But even if they did identify the limitations of pronouns, they didn't really know what to do about it. And with design iterations, after we created the playbook and presented it to users and PMs, we find that PMs were primarily, they had experienced information overload and had issues with the navigation. So we tried to fix that. But what they did find useful were the sharing capabilities and available resources. So all in all, we do find that queer users do notice a difference between inclusionary and exclusionary UAs, which is similar to other studies' findings. And when queer people are less often in positions of power, this kind of allyship is necessary to empower the people in positions to make that change and kind of inform them on the best practices. And we find that meaningful change means continued collaboration between researchers such as us, organizers, and industry workers. But as we went through this project, we did come across several challenges, such as that we were just limited to user account front-end experiences, and that we used snowball sampling from local communities, which meant probably a more privileged community in Berkeley. And then we had a limited timeline due to our master's capstone. But continued, when I speak about continued collaboration, I wanted to share these other contributions of industry and organizing, where due to continued author networking, this playbook has been presented to and been in the hands of design groups in companies like Sonos, SAP, Google, Women Tech Makers, etc. And then when it comes to organizers, workshops on how to use the guide has also been presented to nonprofits such as the Prison Project in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and is being presented at the Trans Tech Social Summit this year. So when it comes to future work in this space, we believe that it's important to kind of expand it, not just in the front end, but with the back end data engineering. Like, how do we categorize these different options and how queer users want to be designed for, and test it that with a larger N, and then also maybe focus on a specific industry and follow those harms and changes within that specific industry. And here are our references. And so the key takeaways here is just that with the goal to empower product managers and teams, we collected queer user experiences through surveys and interviews, found that queer users felt less included and wanted more representative questions. collected information about industry PM work practices through interviews and walkthroughs, and then found that they experience a number of barriers in hierarchy decision-making that slows down their process. So ultimately, we created an open source digital guide for PMs that framed queer user experiences in their framework so that they can more actively engage in this kind of change. And you can access the playbook right here. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to the audience, to our participants, and to our peers and mentors at UC Berkeley and UT Austin. Thank you.